because that's what you want to create, isn't it? You want to change people's minds, change perspectives, create that shift.
Welcome to the Tales to Inspire podcast. Before we get started on this episode, I would like to invite you to our community so that you can hear more stories to inspire change within your life and positive change within the systems in which we live. All I want you to do is to click on the subscribe button. Your comments mean the world to us with anything that's resonated with you, and I absolutely love your support. I can't wait to go on this journey alongside you. Thank you so much for subscribing. Let's get into today's episode. Today, our bite-sized episode is with Kerry Tottingham.
I'm Kerry Tottingham, and this is my tale to inspire.
So, Kerry, can you tell me what inclusion means to you?
Yes, so inclusion, I think when we're thinking about inclusion, we might start by thinking about exclusion. So if exclusion is barriers, things getting in the way, people not being allowed in the room, the door being shut, then inclusion is about choices and opening doors and helping people move into spaces where there might be a barrier to them getting into those spaces. So inclusion work is about supporting that movement, I think. I think there's lots of reasons why people are excluded, feel excluded. I think societal kind of structures are built around exclusion often. So quite often in the inclusion work that needs to be done and that we all need to take part in, it's about creating those ways through and supporting people to create their own ways through as well. But I think there's also a kind of conversation here around power and who has the power and how we use power.
So before we go into the power, because I think that's going to be really interesting, is what are the benefits of having a more inclusive environment?
Yeah, so one of our healing-centered design principles that I'll talk about later is collide and align. And collide and align is all about bringing together diverse ideas, different things, celebrating difference, bringing together the unusual or the unexpected or things from different places and blending those to create something new. And this principle is all about innovation. So innovation comes from difference. Innovation comes from blending new things together to find something that's alternative or unique or hasn't been seen before. So if we just replicate, if we just create organisations or places that are just replicating what's already there, we're only going to ever have what we've got. And what we've got right now in society is not good enough. It's not okay for lots of people. So if we're going to create difference, if we're going to create change, if we're going to develop the world, develop our organisations, then we're going to need to bring in diversity. We're going to need to create spaces for belonging and inclusion.
So talking about power, I think this is really important, that in society, people feel helpless. So if we look at it from a wider perspective, how much power do we have as individuals? And if we don't have power, if we do have power, who owns that power and what can we do about it?
Yeah, so I think when you say the word power, lots of, whoever's listening to this, when you say the word power, just notice what's happening in your body. Because I think sometimes when you say the word power, and when I talk about power, you can kind of see on people's faces a little bit of a moving away or a bit of fear or a little bit of vulnerability. And I think that's because of how power has been used in the past. I think power in itself is a force. It can be a positive force. So the power to grow a plant or a forest, or the power of a waterfall. Power, it can be a really good thing. How power is used can be problematic. So I think before we start to think about how we use our own power, we need to take a pause and notice what power means to us and the things that we're associating with it. Because we're only able to be empowered or to take power if we feel that it aligns with our own values. Right. So if we have values around inclusion, we can't then we can't then use power in the way that we might have seen it in other places. So I think first of all we need to identify how we feel about power and kind of become friends with power. And then I think the next thing is when we feel like we haven't got any power, that's not always true. So sometimes, everybody has power, everybody has agency, everybody has some control, and it's absolutely true that some people have more power or more control or more agency, more ability to be able to create change or make choices. But when we feel like we don't have any power, I think it's really important to reflect and notice where we do have power. So it might be, I have the power over the words that I say, or I have the power over maybe the time I get up in the morning, or something really small that's about me and my life. And then one of the other principles that we use is rhythm and ritual, which is about creating patterns and certainty. And so when we kind of collide that idea of power with rhythm and ritual, that's where we can create really big change, because we can find where we do have power and then create a rhythm in our lives to make sure that we're building on that power, and then move towards having that power threaded through the work that we do or our daily lives. So what I mean by that is, if we feel like we are in a job that we hate, we can't create change, we're stuck in that job. Well, actually, what if we shifted our perspective a little bit and thought of that job as a learning opportunity? So maybe we could find the bits within the work life that we can control. So can you control a little bit of the projects that you choose, or how you present the work back, or the kind of people that you interact with? And then can you build on those positive rhythms to create a different experience? Because I think that's all that power is. It's about owning your experience and being able to shift your experience in a way that works for you. So that kind of movement between disempowered to empowered, it can be a big journey. And if we're talking societally, that's a big kind of mountain and a journey that we all need to be on. But if we can start off just by thinking about ourselves and thinking about where can we create more power in our lives and be comfortable creating and owning and using that power, and using it in a way that aligns with our values, that's when we can kind of start to shift and create change, both for ourselves and then the ripple effects of changing things around us.
So, for example, if I'm not enjoying my job,
yes,
and I'm not happy, and I hate my boss, I hate the work that I'm doing, but it brings in the money.
Yeah.
Okay, it brings in the money so I can support my children, I can support, and that's great. What you're saying is essentially, if you change your perspective in certain aspects of the job that I can control, whether that's the projects or whatever it is, and I say, you know what, I'm gonna change it so it works for me, I'm in turn empowering myself because it's working for me.
Yeah.
So beyond that, it's essentially meaning it's working for my happiness.
Yeah.
So being more empowered basically coincides with making me a happier person, which then makes me a better Krish.
Absolutely. And then when you see people who are feeling like that happy Krish, they're people that you want to be around. They're people that it spreads. So I think when you're feeling disempowered, finding that one thing that you can control and building on that can really help how your experience is, but also the people around you, and then the society around you, and then the world.
But on the final question I want to talk about on inclusion then is, we live in a world full of tick boxes, and whether it's diversity and inclusion and companies ticking a box because they want me to come in and talk to them because I'm a brown face or whatever it is it still a good thing that, yes, at least we've got companies, organisations, communities still talking about inclusion, even if it may not be for the right reasons?
Yeah, so I think companies need to wake up and realise that it's essential. It's not an add-on. And if we're thinking about why those companies might be motivated to do that work, they're probably thinking about their reputation. They might be thinking about their staff. They might be thinking about their recruitment and retention. And so there's another step to climb. There's another step up for those organisations to climb, where they can understand that actually this inclusion, it's not about creating a project or a campaign around inclusion. It's about embedding that through your whole organisation, so that your organisation can be better at what it does. And I think that's the bit that we've not got to yet. I think these campaigns can be good. I always think back to the anti-smoking stuff, right?
Okay.
So just stay with me.
I'll bear with you on this one. Let's go for it.
So smoking. Back when we were kids, everyone used to smoke. It was, culturally, people smoked. Or lots of people smoked. And for years and years and years, there'd been health messages saying, don't smoke, it's bad for you, it's bad for you. But people still did it. And it was only when there were a few things that changed. So there was a law brought in saying that you couldn't smoke indoors or in workplaces. And then because of that law, there was a cultural shift where it started to become, people would look down on you a little bit if you were smoking in a certain area. So there was a real kind of peer pressure, cultural peer pressure. So then those three things, health messaging and understanding, a law, and a cultural kind of peer pressure, that if you look at the smoking rates now, they've massively reduced. So if we could take that kind of same thinking into, if we want to get to a place where diversity is celebrated, welcomed, the norm, then maybe those three things are what we need to do. We need to do some messaging campaigning. We need to do some upholding of laws and accountability. And then we need to do some of the kind of peer pressure type work to create that kind of social shift and societal change. And I think what a lot of organisations are focusing on is the health messaging aspect of it, right. Whereas actually the accountability within organisations and the supporting individuals within the organisations to be advocates of change and have their voices amplified, everybody's voices amplified within the organisation to really set a cultural standard of how we want to be in this organisation. I think if we could start to focus on those two bits as well as the messaging, tick boxing, then that's when real change will happen. So,
because I've had this feeling that we're talking with these three aspects. I love those three aspects as well, and great. And when you're going down the smoking rabbit hole, I was like, where is this going? But the law and the government and where we're at is probably behind where society and where we're at as wanting to make change.
Yeah.
It feels like, and the same with smoking. It started to go, everyone started to realise that this is not a good thing, and then the law came in.
Yeah,
It wasn't the law first.
Yeah.
So maybe that's also in that.
Yeah, maybe it kind of comes in a cycle or a journey. And when I say law, I think there's the government law, but there's also the accountability and rules that and upholding of those. So, and again, when you think of other big shifts around Me Too movement or sexism, definitely not saying we're there yet, but there's more accountability, and I think there's more recognition that this is okay, this is not okay. And if this is not okay and it's been done, then something needs to happen. And sometimes that doesn't happen either. Sometimes there's that sweeping under the carpet and turning the other way. And actually, could we create accountable places that are not led by kind of bullying or, I think there's a way of doing it in a way that's supportive of people and supportive of people's own learning journeys as well. Yeah. Because that's what you want to create, isn't it? You want to change people's minds, change perspectives, create that shift.